Hello, friends, and welcome to the Cinemondo podcast. We're talking about One Piece,
One Piece.
our favorite new thing.
I was excited
We're
about this
going
one
through-
because it's my favorite arc.
Yes, this is where it really starts to kick in a cool way. And what a bizarre sort of twist of story that it seems like this kind of thing would only happen in One Piece, where I mean they're pirates on the high seas and they're fighting other crazy pirates and all this stuff. There's his grandpa is shooting cannonballs at him, and Luffy is expanding himself and bouncing the cannonball back to him, and his grandfather is like, ah ha 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 ha. Yeah, excellent move. Like he's having fun sort of playing against Luffy, who you now know is his grandson. But to have this have the twist go here is so cool. They escape Garp's attack by going into the fog, and then Luffy's like, I smell something. Somebody's cooking.
Butter, soy sauce. He's just like, I'll say
go that way. Go 9.2 degrees to the right, and Nami's like, suddenly he knows how to navigate.
Oh no, he's like, and meat. Like he's obsessed with meat. So yeah, this is my favorite.
A floating restaurant.
I love just out in the middle of nowhere. It looks like a giant fish. It was beautiful design.
Yeah,
I loved it.
And I love this
because I just finished watching The Bear, so I'm like so totally into loving the idea of like being in the kitchen and seeing people cook, which I love anyway. Just seeing people cook. So here we are with like One Piece, all its glory and all this gorgeous production, and now we get to be in a restaurant on the high seas, like full of pirates. I mean, it was so perfect. I loved it.
Yeah,
loved it.
And pretty funny because you realize it's like, people have to eat, but in the anime they made it so almost like that's where people will go to have a fancy nice dinner, or it's almost like, and the decor and styling and everything is sort of like Red Lobster or something. Like it's got an ocean theme fancy, with portholes and
netting.
The netting on the fish nets on the wall, and it's so cool. It's like a nostalgic old school seafood restaurant in Florida or something.
Exactly. And they have these big, walkways and planks out front, almost like a parking lot where you kind of put your car, like you come in and park your ship, come right in. So
come in, park your pirate ship and go in and have a nice lobster dinner. And
you almost wanted as much as
this world is so bizarre and fun.
Oh, so good. You're like, when do they eat? And he's always talking about eating, and he got poisoned last time. Like, they need to eat. And so you're relieved that we can have a moment to eat. And even in the show watching it, was just so cute. I loved it.
Yeah, he just sort of forcefully ejected his last dinner. So he's probably pretty hungry. Yeah. But they show up, and the food just looks great. The way they do the preparing of the food. I mean, more details in the show that they didn't have to go quite there, but they did. They evidently got some real chefs to do the cutting, because it looks like the professional, Hell's Kitchen kind of backstage at the restaurant kind of a vibe. And you have this chef Zeph, who's like this, he's just like the anime. He's got the crazy
the braided
mustache coming out of his nose.
Beautifully done.
And they even did the crazy tall chef's hat, but they cut it back just enough to make it outrageous, but not unbelievable.
No, it worked for his character because everything was always a low angle with him, and he always looks sort of bigger than life anyway, so it kind of worked. He's clomping around with his one leg and his peg leg. He's got this huge hat. And he's like, this giant mustache. So totally, you're not even, going, oh, that hat is too big. You're like, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah,
I love that. Just great.
And then we meet
great
Sanji, who is like the coolest guy in the world. He's like this guy who is they make him wait tables, but he's
a little too cool.
Yeah, his dream. Yeah, but his dream is he wants to be a chef, and he cooks this really great meal, but it's a little bit too fancy, kind of a little bit too very frou-frou French style. And Zeph is like, nah, we feed pirates here. Nobody wants to eat that fancy stuff.
And did he have eggplant in it? And that's why he keeps calling him Eggplant after that, 'cause he keeps
Oh, he
trying to put
calls him
eggplant
Little
in the dishes.
Eggplant when we find out later that he
Oh,
why, I
later,
think.
okay. I thought maybe he
Yeah.
put eggplant in the dish and that pirates don't eat eggplant. Like, it was something
Oh,
like, "What are you doing? The strange ingredient."
Zepp gave him a nickname, Little Eggplant, and it was
Yeah.
back
"Hey,
when you
eggplant."
sort of
So funny. Very fun, but yeah, I just loved the whole look of this, set,
Yeah,
and it just had this sort of joyous sort of celebration, and we get to see our crew
yeah.
kinda relax for a second, and you see them all just kinda sitting around eating too much and drinking too much, and I even love them just sitting outside at the bar, the outdoor bar where
Yes,
they're all just
the
kinda
bar is
lounging
so
around the
cool in the
couches.
fish's mouth.
Ah, I want to go there. Yeah, it
I
had the giant
know.
fish at the bar in it. Oh my god, someone please make that. I
I
want that.
know.
I wanna go to the
Well,
giant fish
here in Los
place.
Angeles, we have water. We could very easily have a floating restaurant in Malibu
I know.
somewhere that looks like a fish with a bar in the fish's
Ah,
mouth. I mean,
seriously, be so
w
good. Oh my
why
god.
don't we have that?
Yeah, that would be so
Anyway,
Gladstones.
they have it in this world,
Yes,
and you get the feeling like no matter where you go here, you're only just a few, nautical miles away from some other amazing cool thing.
that's right, or another disaster or another big fight. There's always
Or
something
another
on the horizon.
crazy pirate with a wanted poster.
Yeah.
But the Baratier is like this place. They've got this code of
Mm,
like the code of the ocean
mhm.
and restaurants on the ocean. And a hungry pirate stumbles in. I haven't eaten
Yeah,
in days or weeks, and Sanji feeds him, and Zeph is upset, and Sanji's like, look, if somebody is hungry, I'm gonna feed him. And
that's right.
that's what we do. That is what we do at the Baratier. And so they have this sort of code of honor among pirates and all that. So
Yep.
Luffy and the gang comes in, and of course, things are great for a little while, but then Luffy is being this sort of I don't know, he's a little bit too naive about some things, and
Yes.
basically he says, look, I know we just ate a whole, $1,000 or 1,000 berries worth of food, but I'm going to become the king of pirates, and I'm going to get the One Piece, and then I'll come back and I'll pay my bill.
Right, it's paid, I just haven't given the money yet.
Right.
So funny. That was very funny. So that didn't
So of
work.
course, yeah, Zeph grabs him and like, "Grr," you're going to go wash dishes for the rest of your life.
I love that too because Luffy is so arrogant in an endearing way. He's just like got that
Yeah.
arrogant, like I'm in charge. I don't care what you say. But I love him getting dragged off, basically, like like by his ear, almost like he's getting dragged into the kitchen. Here's Luffy, king of the
Yeah.
pirates, and he's told to wash dishes because he basically ate 1,000, like a year's worth of food. So he has
Right.
to do a lot of dishes. So I just love that sort of humbling of, and Luffy doesn't even really fight it. He's like,
He's like, all
okay,
right,
I'll do the dishes. I
and
guess it's fair. I
he's
thought that
washing
was funny. He
dishes.
didn't, yeah, so he just does a million dishes. It was pretty funny.
It's going to take a year for you to work off that bill, but Luffy's like, all right, I'll get started. S- But
So
meanwhile, there's other things happening, other things going
yeah,
on, and
yeah,
it's
mhm,
such a funny location. First of all, with the idea of chefs and cooking,
yeah.
and Luffy, I think, decides, wouldn't it be great if we had a chef on our ship, on our giant,
That would be perfect.
yeah,
We all need a chef, I mean,
yeah,
and a chef that can fight. So, not only is
yes.
he good at cooking, he can kick ass. So that
Yeah, there's
helps.
something happens in the we meet a new character on the in the
Mhm.
Baratier. We meet the enigmatic Arlong, who is
Ooh,
I mean, we were sort of softly introduced to the idea of humans that are part fish,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
call them fishmen. They don't call them fishmen, they call them fishmen. And
fishman,
Fishman, and the
fishman.
maitre d' of the Baratier is a fishman, and he's kind of like a
That's
human
right,
goldfish. He's very cool
that's right.
looking.
Yeah,
But
that'd be
then
great
this guy
working.
Arlong comes in with his really hideous crew, and he's got like the nose of a sawfish or whatever. I don't know what the
That is
kind of
really
fish.
strange looking. Yeah,
There's the spikes. He's got like
and he
this
has a little
long
fin on
snout
the
with
back.
spikes,
Yeah.
which is a radical character
Yeah.
introduction, because up until now we
Yeah.
haven't seen any sort of non-human
Mm-mm.
characters, I don't think. I mean, unless we count
We
the guy who's got the whisker, but I don't know if we've met him yet.
Right.
The
It
Marine
kinda reminded me
with
a
the
little bit, you
whisker.
know, Star Trek where you kinda took for granted there were all these different species of humanoid
Yeah.
type people, and it kinda reminded me of that where everyone's hanging out, and then there's these just weird looking character design, and no one really bats an eye, really.
And so,
We kinda go, "What?" And then you're like, "Okay, I'll accept that."
oh, he's a fishman, yeah.
Yeah,
And on the Baratier, I think that's sort of like a truce. There's sort of a, if you come here, you come here to eat, you don't come here to fight. There's a rule. It like you said, Star Trek, there was that show, Deep Space Nine, with the space
yeah,
station that all the different people went to, and there was kind of like
yeah,
a treaty, no
yeah,
fighting, and
mhm,
so they all have to kind of cool it when you're at the Baratier. No fighting allowed.
yeah, yeah,
And so, of course, when some fighting does start happening, when Arlong shows up, Luffy
yep,
sees how amazing this Sanji guy is at
yeah,
fighting. I love the way they choreograph the fights with Sanji. His
yeah,
style of fighting is so different than the
mhm,
pugilistic kind of thing.
yeah, it's all feet.
He's very elegant,
Mhm.
and yeah, he kicks with his feet, like he sometimes
Just
keeps
kinda
his hands in his
pivoting.
pockets and he pivots
Yeah,
around.
he's just
Yeah,
really chill, and I love his styling with it too because he's got blonde hair and he wears this really well-fitted suit with the shirt, like, he looks very pulled together, like the
yeah,
black suit, and it looks perfect, like, he looks exactly like the character in anime. I was
yes,
impressed that they got this actor because that's one thing about this casting. Everybody has these kind of exaggerated features that work in this and really sets them apart, and so this is just another one of those characters, like, he's just so perfect and distinctive, like, you
yeah,
no one fades into the background of the show. Everybody's very distinctive, you know
yes.
exactly who everyone is. So he's just another one of those characters you think could have been really bland because he's this blonde white guy in a black suit, but they really amped him up and made him look great. Just such a good job.
And the actor pulls it off too with the
Mhm.
style. He's
Yeah,
very stylish and very sophisticated, cool
yeah,
dude. And he's got the hair over one eye, and he's just got this
yeah,
cool vibe to him. He doesn't and he's got this sort of mischief in his smile.
yeah,
You just immediately like this guy. You like
yeah,
the character. And he comes to the table, and he's a little bit upset with Zeph, the head of the
yeah.
restaurant. So he comes to the table and he's just telling him, this place is terrible. What do you want? It's,
Yeah, what do you want to choke your food down with? He's, like, being
right.
really mean. But Zeph is being really mean to him, saying, like, how terrible a
Yeah.
cookie is, like, giving him a lot of shit. He's, like,
Like he's not
trying to make
ready.
these beautiful meals, like, "Get out there in the room and be a waiter." It's like, it seemed extra mean to me. Like, I did
Yeah. He's a
we
little rough
understand
on him.
now. Yeah, it just seemed extra mean, and he wasn't understanding why he was getting so much grief, and then you kinda find out a little bit later the whole
It's like a,
strategy and what was happening, but I love that reveal that we don't know about yet. But, I thought
yes.
that was really well done because 'cause you're kind of against Zeph on this. You're like, "Ah, dude, lighten up, man. This
Yeah.
guy's trying," you know?
You have a
So sad.
resource here. Why don't you use
I
him?
know, it was
But when
mean.
he sees Nami, you also realize that he's another one of these characters that has a slightly enhanced
Yeah,
adulthood about him, about
yeah.
his character, which is
He's very
interesting.
flirty.
Yeah, he flirts with her, which
Mhm.
you see Luffy almost like,
He's like, "What's
"What? What? Nami? This you're flirting with
her?"
her? Why?" But
I know, and I
it's
love
so
he's like,
funny. I
"What's
love
wrong
the way
with
they
your eye?" He's like, "I'm winking."
yeah.
It's, like, so funny. It was very
You
cute.
just
It was
get the
very
idea that Luffy is such a kid, he's such a
Yeah,
kid,
totally. Well, he
like,
is.
"Girls? Ew.
And he just embodies
Gross."
that too. The actor who plays
Yeah,
Luffy is so perfect at that borderline between child and man, it's just like, he's kind of an adult because he's kind of badass. He's not a kid, but he acts very, like you said, very childlike. But the actor is
yeah,
perfect. He has that
yeah.
perfect smile, the innocence in his eyes, but then when he wants to be serious, when he's bringing it, he brings it. Like you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah, he gets
here's
that
the adult
look,
in the room.
he does the
Yeah,
Kubrick
really good.
stare, and
Mhm.
he turns into the fighting machine.
So good.
But it comes from I think what's interesting about that Luffy character is that when you find his backstory and you realize he was this sort of street urchin,
Mhm.
the sort of,
Yeah.
parentless kid who doesn't have
Yeah.
anywhere to go, and he hangs around the
Yeah.
restaurant and they give him food and he becomes friends with the pirates, and
Right.
he starts sort of fantasizing about the pirate life because he's got this imagination, and
Yeah.
and then of course he eats the devil fruit and
Yeah.
becomes, the gum gum rubber boy. And he realized, now I can really be the best pirate in the world. But he's got that innocence about him because he's sort of childlike, but he also has been
Yeah.
through some crap.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah,
lived
he didn't
through
really
some
have a
things.
father figure. He was kind of like just sort of orphaned and, he kinda latched on to, Shanks as sort of a father figure in a way, and that was a good one because he's very, he's a good guy. He was a pirate with a heart of gold kind of. He doesn't want to, like you said, doesn't want to use
Yeah.
violence if he doesn't have to, even though he will if he has to. But I really like that. And he gave him his hat, So you see that yearning to belong, and that's sort of why he wants the crew. I think he wants a family that he never had. So it's actually really
And Luffy
sweet.
also feels responsible for Shanks losing his arm and
Yes.
that
Oh,
whole thing. And he saw these. I mean, you imagine. I wonder if in the future we're going to get like a Luffy backstory, like what happened
yeah.
to Luffy to
Yeah.
give, to put him in that situation where he didn't have parents. What happened?
Mhm.
And you kind of get the impression, like with some of the other characters, that they do have
Mhm.
tragedies in their past. And with Luffy, his attitude is almost like he's one of those people that's like, okay, that's in the past. That happened in the past. I'm focusing on the future. Um, in the original the anime opening credits theme song, at least in the English language version of it, it's basically like, let's just go out into the world and leave our compass behind. And the lines
Yeah.
of dialogue, I mean, the lyrics of the song
I love it.
imply that they're leaving the real world behind,
Yeah.
you know, and they're
And you
going
can go
out to
with
live.
them. You
Yeah,
can come
come
with them.
along,
You'll be my
join
friend.
our crew. We
That's right.
are, yeah,
We are.
and it's that feeling
Yeah.
of not in a sort of irresponsible way, but in a sort of a almost like a healthy way to
Yeah.
leave the hardships, that leave the trauma and the
Yeah.
sadness in the past, move into the future where
Yeah.
the sun is shining and your friends are there and you have these people that have got your back, that whole idea.
Yep.
Together we're gonna defeat our demons.
But we get introduced to a new character. Every episode seems to bring us at least one new character. We
Or
get
yeah, this one
actually
gives us
the
two pretty big ones.
world's great yeah, we got a few. The world's greatest swordsman, right? Is he in this one or next one?
Oh, and him too, yeah.
He kind of is starting to lurk.
Dracul.
He's lurking
Dracul.
around. Yeah. He's been hired by
He
Garp.
Yeah.
Garp, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Well, why is he
Not
doing
cool,
that?
man. Not cool, man.
Maybe there's a reason, I
He's
don't know.
anti-pirate, but he's using a pirate to do his job. I love
Well,
that too,
that's
where
tr
Kobe is like, "Dude, what up?" And they're like, "Here, welcome to the real world," that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like, you're against it until you're not. I was like,
We
okay,
have deals with pirates, even
we
though
have
we're against
deals.
the pirates. It's sort of like
Yep.
the informant on some shows where they go and deal with the criminals so they can get information about the other criminals, or the bigger criminals. And so he knows that they have these resources out there, intelligence resources that they can use in exchange for not bringing them in.
That's right. That's right. So he's very
So this
intriguing. He has
guy
these great
Mihawk
yellow eyes.
is,
So good.
yeah,
Yeah.
very cool character, very
Yeah.
broad, like another one of those very broad kind of
Yeah.
characters that's a little
Yeah.
bit extreme because his sword
Mhm.
is like this, it's like 10 feet
Ridiculously
long
huge.
sword. It's like this wide. It looks like,
I love the
he couldn't even
intro.
lift it.
Oh my god, it's like, could it be any more phallic? It could not.
Yeah.
But I love where he he's having the big fight. I wouldn't even call it a fight. He's having the big slaughter on the beach where he's just sort of standing there and just fighting people off without
Yeah.
even thinking about it. And he throws his sword at this massive ship out in the ocean. It throws the sword and it goes shooting through the water, just cuts the ship in half. And it's
Cuts the
like,
ship in half
that's a
and
good
then comes
sword.
back to him somehow,
Yeah,
like Captain America's shield. But
supernatural.
it,
Thor's
meanwhile, there's a
hammer.
thing in the show. You mentioned that scene, and they do have sort of a analog of a cell phone idea with
Mm.
these
Oh yeah.
snails. Was that in the anime? I
Oh,
don't know if that was in the anime,
I'm not
but they
sure.
communicate somehow. Snails are able to communicate with
I love
other
that.
snails psychically or something. and they figured out a way to attach like electronics to a snail so
Yeah.
that you can call another person with a snail, and you can put a snail in your ear,
Like
and
a little
that's the
AirPod.
thing. Yeah, like a
Like
but
a little
somehow
phone.
snails have
Yeah.
this communicative
Yeah.
network or something.
I love it that the
So he's
human mouth.
basically on his cell phone, you know, while he's
Yeah.
fighting off all these pirates and
Yeah.
chopping ships in half.
On his cell
So
phone.
it was kind of funny where it was like a scene where you imagine
Mhm.
he's like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, hold on one sec," you know,
Hold on, let me kill this
kills
guy.
4
Yeah,
people.
here's another.
He's like, "Okay, what were you saying?" Yeah,
It was so
okay.
funny. It was awesome. So you're seeing how formidable he is. He doesn't even have to try. Like he's so bored, and he's sort of like, I think I'm a little above the pay, or Luffy's a little below my pay grade. Like, why are you paying me to
Right.
get this guy? He sounds like a big nothing. He goes, Nah, yeah, you'll see. So
But, you know,
I
what's
really like that.
interesting about that scene that we have to mention is the fact that
Mhm.
that other pirate comes up, you know,
That's right.
the bad guy from the anime
Mhm.
who was a major character in the whole Baratier story.
Oh, that's right.
What
He
was
was.
his name? I can't remember
Oh,
his name.
can't remember his name.
Krieg.
But he had that thing that comes up over his shoulder, like a
Yeah,
battling
was his
ram
name
almost.
Krieg? It was like the Krieg
Maybe.
pirates. I
You
think it
guys
was
can
Krieg.
flame us in the comments on this one.
Yeah, let me know if it's Krieg. But he had those big
Yes.
golden armor and the
Yeah.
headband, and I think he had purple hair or something, and he's got that cannon that comes up, and he's basically ended in this episode.
Yeah. Like,
I
"Here
thought,
you go.
okay,
You're
there he is,
gone."
but then it's like bonk, gone.
I know. I love it too, but it shows, like, they show his wanted poster. You
Yeah,
see, like, his bounty. You're like, "Oh god, another big character," and the fight is over in, like, 1 second, which was
yeah,
hilarious. And so you're
but
kinda like, don't need the character, and also just shows you how badass this guy is. Like, he's taking out bounty guys left and right, which are the hardest ones, right? So I thought that was pretty
yeah,
funny.
but Krieg
It
may
was
be
great.
back. Who knows?
He may be back because they didn't that's the thing in the show. They show people go flying through the air, and you assume they're dead, but they're usually
Yeah,
not, so he'll probably be
Luffy
back.
punches them into the stratosphere, and they just
Yeah,
they fly
and
away,
they land in a boat somehow, and then they're just
right?
rowing away. So that was
Saved
sort of
by
the
fishmen.
so I really love this episode well, this arc because we get 2
Yeah,
episodes because I just love it, but so
yeah,
this is only the first half of the
yes,
Baratier look, I said it right.
yes,
Um, the arc that I love so much I can't pronounce. But yeah, so we'll definitely join us for episode 6, the second half of the
which is a really good
Baratier
episode.
arc. Oh, it's one of the best. One of the
Yeah,
best. Definitely great. So we'll see you then.
take care, everybody.
Let's know what you think.